one of our regular history club members uh, still is extremely interested and into Civil War reenacting. How into it, Mr. Bills? He has his own uniform and he has his own replica of a Civil War era rifle, and so he he's part of a couple of groups. He's a part of a couple of groups that did reenacting events, and so it was an obvious dovetail of let's go see this Civil War reenactment group. And so one semester, with this one of our regular students, he invited us to come to a reenactment event, and we went. So went to see some Civil War reenactors. Again, just like the Renaissance Fair, living history. How did people live back then? How did they fight? How did they interact? I mean, it brings history to life. It was real. The past is real. Sometimes in our postmodernist kind of thinking, sometimes we talk about creating history and recreating history, and almost to the point where sometimes some of these students can't be blamed for thinking that history is just made up. If we constantly talk about how history is created and history is recreated, and we make it's almost kind of like Napoleon's famous saying, history is just lies agreed upon. And so it and so the things like the Renaissance Fair and the Civil War reenactment we went to, it really brings home the point that the past is real. It did exist, on its own. You get it? It existed on its own without our current day ideology recreating, whatever whatever our narrative is, whatever our thesis interpretations are, whatever our ideology of the past is. The past existed on its own, outside of our framing. You know what I mean? We can frame the past any way we want, create it, recreate it. We create narratives and all that. That's fine, but when you do these living history events like Renaissance Fair and reenactment, it really brings home that the past existed. It actually existed. It is real, and we can recreate it or create it in some ways. And so when you study history philosophically, you're trying to get in touch with that objective past, that actually happened. And so it's an interesting event to go and study and see. And yes, it is true. The Renaissance Fair and Civil War reenacting, it still fits within our creation. We're creating it and framing it a certain way. That's true. And that's why primary documents are important. You get it? Why are primary documents so important? It helps us create the past accurately. And so that's what the primary documents do. They help us recreate or create the past accurately. And the past did exist. It existed objectively outside of us. And whatever way we frame it, it existed. People lived. People existed. People made choices. Um, People lived out their lives and died and, left their mark. Anyways, and so the Civil War reenactment was a really good event. Um, and sometimes Civil War reenactors get kind of teased a little bit about being a little weird. But it was a good event to attend and really gets you in touch with the past. Um, and I just thought it was a great idea.